All right, we are exactly 2 minutes after the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get things started. For anyone who hasn't attended a speedrun webinar in the past, the concept is pretty simple. We want to spend the entire hour, or as much as we can, inside of the product doing something. So the very first one we did was, I think, last summer, and this was essentially the basic setup of endpoint management. And then we did a ticketing speed run focusing strictly on setting up all of our ticketing functionality. And then today we're going to be talking about anything and everything involving custom fields. Now, my usual bit of housekeeping does apply here. This session is being recorded, and it will be emailed to you probably sometime tomorrow. It'll be a link to our YouTube recording. There are going to be quite a few resources today that you may want to have your hands on, including all the custom fields I'm going to create and the scripts that would populate data inside of them. So all of that will be included with the email that gets sent out tomorrow. Just make sure you look inside of the YouTube description for all of that information. Secondly, if you have any questions as I'm going through everything, please you put them in the Q&A section of Zoom. Much easier for me to keep track of. I'm probably not going to be answering questions as we go. I'll probably try to do a little bit of a roundup at the end, but definitely please put those questions in there so that I can help you get them answered. And lastly, we do have a giveaway. I will announce that at the very end of the webinar. Now I am already sharing my screen, and so you can see that I have cheated a little bit. I am not going to be doing the monotonous data entry of having to create all of these custom fields and also import the scripts that you would then need to populate those custom fields with data. So I have done a little bit of homework here. It is just the custom field creation and the script import that I have done off camera. So just so you guys are aware, that's really all I've done so far. I am going off of a bit of a primer, which hopefully you can see here. Actually, you can't because I did not share my screen properly. So let's take two on that. All right, now you should be able to see my entire screen, and you can see my spreadsheet here. This is my guidebook of what custom fields I am going to create, the names of them, the various permissions I'm going to be using, and it's also going to have details on the scripts that I'm using. I'm going to be using a variety of scripts from the template library, as you can see right here. I'm going to be using some scripts from our community members right here. And I'm also going to be using some scripts that I myself have written. So a lot of different scripts there. They're all going to be linked. Anything that we talk about today, you will have in the packet, the primer that will be sent out or will be linked in the YouTube description. Actually, while we're here, let's go ahead and just share that in the chat. So right here, I've created a publicly shareable link. This is just the spreadsheet as it exists right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in to the chat in case anybody wants to take a look. Again, the packet that will be emailed out will be linked in the YouTube description of this recording. That's going to have even more information. So this, if you do want to follow along, you should click the link in the chat right here. One other thing to note here is that I have gone and added in a mechanism here as well, which is essentially when the custom field is going to be updated. And I think that should be everything, so we can actually go ahead and get started. For starters, let's go to where we would create the custom fields. You're going to go to Administration and then to Devices, and you will see that there are two types of custom fields. We have global custom fields, which is where I've created everything today, and then we have role-based custom fields. And there are two distinct differences between them today. And just for everybody's edification, I am in a Canadian environment, which is already on 8.0. So this is the 8.0 version of Ninja, which we are currently in the process of rolling out globally. I believe everybody throughout the entire world should have 8.0 of Ninja by the end of this month, by the end of March. Now, the two primary differences between these custom fields, one is that global custom fields are global. They go to every single device type, regardless of what type of device it is within Ninja. Windows, Mac OS, Linux, cloud monitors, network devices, absolutely everything. Role-based custom fields are different in that they have to be assigned to specific device roles. So a good example of this is that you want to report on the battery cycles on a laptop. Not really relevant on servers, not really relevant on desktops. And so you might want to go ahead and assign that strictly to a laptop device role inside of NinjaOne. We would just come down here, look for our device role, edit that, and then add in the custom fields that would apply to this specific device. And of course, you could have a custom field belong to multiple different device types. That's perfectly fine. The other big difference here is inheritance. Global custom fields can exist at three different levels within Ninja. They exist at the device level, obviously, and they can also exist at the location and organization level. And this means they are really useful for being able to store data at the organization level and then go ahead and have every device have access to that data. We see this used most commonly with applications that use tokenized deployment. And so you may have a different token for different locations. Might have a different token for your different clients if you're an MSP. And so being able to store that token in an organization custom field and every device inside of that organization can have access to it is really, really useful. Now, if you need to override that on a per location basis, you can have an organization level variable. You can then have or override that organization level variable at the location level. And then finally, whatever is at the device level is ultimately going to take precedence. And I do see the question already. This is being recorded. This recording will be emailed out to you tomorrow. And I see somebody saying they're not getting audio. Please tell me that you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Brief moment of panic. So anyway, we have these fields that can exist at all three levels. And again, the inheritance is built in. So what exists at the org level will propagate down to the location and device levels unless you override it. Now, the reason I've created all of these as global custom fields, and this is a bit of a sneak peek, is that in our 9.0 release, so again, we're in the midst of the 8.0 rollout right now. 8.1 will actually be next month in April, and that's going to include macOS MDM. Then our 9.0 release, which will be out globally, hopefully by the end of Q2, so look for a May-June timeframe on that. That is going to be a big rework of custom fields. And so you should actually see just custom fields in the future rather than having this role-based versus global discrepancy. The other thing that this is going to bring is custom field tabs, the 9.0 release. And so you will be able to more granularly organize what custom fields you want to see in certain tabs, which is going to be a big boon for organization, as you will see as we walk through everything here. So I know I probably should have saved the tease for the end here, but I did want to let everybody know that's kind of why I've organized things in this way. It's because I know that downstream custom fields are going to become more homogeneous. Now let's look at custom fields here. I didn't say a date, Chris, for macOS MDM, but it will be in the 8.1 release, which is rolling out in April. So that's as definitive as I can be right now. So there are many different types of custom fields. You can see here that we have attachments. So if you wanted to upload a Excel spreadsheet or a CSV or a PDF, anything I think under 20 megabytes, as long as it is a supported file type, you can upload into a custom field and have it accessible within the browser. You could also have something as simple as a checkbox, just indicating either a yes or no, a true or a false, a one or a zero, essentially. We've got date options, decimal options. You can link to devices here. You could link to organizations. You could link to locations. But I want to focus on a few specific types that we're primarily going to be taking advantage of today. So the first one that I would point out here is a multi-line field. I'd say this is probably one of the most commonly utilized custom fields within Ninja, in part because it is very flexible. It is exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to store multiple lines of data. And the reason why we like to use it is because it has a very high character count. You can store up to 10,000 characters of data inside of a multi-line custom field. I would contrast that with a text field, which I do not really use very often because it has a relatively low character count. I think only about 200 characters can be utilized in the text field. So I tend to defer towards using a multi-line custom field just because I feel like it gives me a little bit more future proofing. Now, another field that we see used often is a secure field. Anything that you store inside of the secure field is going to be hashed out. It's not going to be visible in plain text. And so this gives you the option to go ahead and store something sensitive in there that is only going to be revealed after the technician enters a MFA code in order to validate that they are who they say they are. And they can go ahead and actually view the contents of this secure field. So we see that used quite often. And then the last one that I'll talk about for the time being is going to be a WYSIWYG field. This is short for what you see is what you get. And WYSIWYG fields can accept HTML formatting, which allows you to do some really fancy things, and it looks really, really cool. I would contrast that with pretty much everything else that we see here. These are all going to be string values. So your ability to format is going to be significantly limited. You can really only format using string values. So just be aware of that. Anything that you want to do that is going to involve more custom formatting or maybe a lot of different data that you want to condense and display in a single custom field, definitely want to use the WYSIWYG field. Now, if we create one of these, let's go ahead and actually create a WYSIWYG field here. And let's go ahead and say we want to have this store our local user information. And so we'll say this is the local user report. You'll see here that I have my label here and then the actual name of the custom field in camel case. This is the really important part here, the name. When we write to custom fields, it is case sensitive. So you do need to reference the custom field exactly as it appears right here. Really important to do that. And then we have the device scope. So where is this field going to live? Most of the ones that I've created here today, they live at the device level. If you want to be able to interact with a custom field via a script, you have to give it device scope. If you just gave a custom field an organization scope or location scope in the way that I have right here, the device is not going to be able to interact with it. It will not be able to write to those fields. It can't write to those fields, period. But it would also not be able to read from any data inside of those fields. So if you do want to have automations interact with a custom field, it does need to have that device level scope. So in our case here, we'll just leave it as a device level scope. I do have an option here to say whether this is required or not, but I'm not going to be utilizing that option today. And then we'll click next, and then we can set up our permissions. So should the technician be able to edit this or not? This is something that I think is best left up to each individual. But I think there are some cases where you'd say probably the technician shouldn't be able to modify stuff. And I would also say that with anything that is a WYSIWYG field, I generally tend to leave those read-only because I don't want somebody to accidentally screw up all the very nice formatting. So in this case, I will leave this to be read-only. And we'll also set this to be both read and write from automations, so a script that is running through the CLI, and then also through the API. So the API has full read and write access to this field. Automations also have read and write access to this field. Again, in practicality, you may say that the API should only be able to read this data because the source of truth for the information should come from the device. So again, I would leave that up to each person's individual preferences about how these should behave, but definitely think about what the source of data is for the custom field. Generally, we would say that that's what should have read and write access, or at least write access. So we'll go ahead and next there, you can add a description, you can add tooltip, as well as footer text here. I am not going to be taking advantage of that today, so we're going to go ahead and hit next there. And then our last option here is because this is a WYSIWYG field, do we want to go ahead and have it automatically expanded versus having to click into it in order to see any of the data? And that is going to apply if the length is larger than 10,000 characters. Note here that says more than 10,000 characters. Earlier, I said that multi-line fields have a max of 10,000. However, WYSIWYG fields, which this is, have a max of 200,000 characters. So you have significantly more headroom to play with here. See some questions based off of the scope here. So a device can read from a no, a device cannot read from an org-only custom field, I don't believe. The device Okay, well, I take it back. Luke is contradicting me here, so I would trust Luke. Luke is the product manager in charge of custom fields. So yes, if it is an org-only scope, then the device should be able to read from it. So we'll go ahead and create this custom field here. Yeah, I think I may be confusing how things may have previously operated at one point, but yes, no longer the case. Uh, an org-only custom field can read from it, but I would also emphasize that devices cannot write into org or location custom fields. They can read, but they are not going to be able to write into that level. Devices are only going to be able to write into the device level of the custom field. All right, so now let's go ahead and go jump back into our spreadsheet here. Uh, so now we have our custom fields. We've also imported the scripts that we're going to use to populate this information. However, one thing to keep in mind here is that you could run a script to populate a custom field with information. However, it is going to stay static. You need to take into account whether or not the data should be updated over time. So take, for example, your local admin groups right here. I probably need to update that on a pretty frequent basis here so that I have the ability to know who is actually present on the device. If I run it, let's say now, and then I come back and check this data in June, well, it could be very well be out of date, and it's not going to be showing me what an accurate reflection of the current state of the device. So let's go ahead and sort by our mechanism here. I want to see when I'm going to be updating all of these various custom fields. And I've got a couple different options here. Some of these are best suited to updating whenever a user logs in. For example, when we're tracking user events right here, that makes sense. User logins, logoffs. I want to go ahead and have that update at the user login. Um, Right here, we have our file tree size. This is something that I'm having updated on two different levels. I'm having it updated at least once per day, and I'm also having it update as soon as a low disk space condition triggers. Then some other ones I'm just updating every single day. Some of these I'm updating every single hour. Some of these are just based off of a script execution that could be a part of device onboarding, like blocking Windows 11 via the registry so that the device does not inadvertently update to Windows 11. And then some of them might be weekly, or they could simply be on demand. A technician can say, hey, I want to know what the check disk status is on this device, and I can go ahead and run that script to then receive that data inside of a custom field. Let's go into our policies. We'll go into our policy here and then to our Windows workstation policy. So for starters, I'm going to start creating some scheduled automations. Let's go ahead and add in our daily one right here. We're going to call this our custom fields daily update. We're going to go ahead and have this occur, let's say at 10 a.m. And we're then going to go ahead and add in our automations. I have created a category here where I've stored all of these scripts, and then I can simply reference my spreadsheet here to know what I should include. And so for daily execution, it looks like we have 4 here. I'm going to be using the active power plan report. I'm going to be using the audit PowerShell version. I'm going to be using a very simple one that involves me using the get printer commandlet in PowerShell to retrieve printers and then write those into a custom field. And then finally, I'm going to be using the system performance check, which creates this great looking report at the device level of all the common things you care about a device, speed test, process information, just really, really valuable. So let's go back into Ninja and let's add the system performance check right here. Let's say that it's been 30 days since the last reboot. We want to go ahead and take that into account. That's going to be sort of a benchmark for us. Do we want to display a message to the end user? I'm actually going to uncheck that. What's the duration to perform these tests? I'm going to time that out at 5 minutes. How many events do I want to retrieve from my individual event log sources? And then finally, the WYSIWYG custom field where this data is going to be stored. And so in my case, if we look at that spreadsheet, I just named it system performance check here. So it's very easy for me actually to just go ahead and actually copy that and then paste it directly into uh, my custom field script variable form here. So let's go ahead and apply that. I will add in another one here as well. Let's do our audit PowerShell version. Again, I need that custom field here. Whoops, wrong spreadsheet. Let's go in here, and what did I call that? I called it PowerShell version. Again, remember that these do need to be case sensitive exactly as you have created the custom fields. If I had left it as it was, where it was uppercase P, uppercase S, that would fail. You do need to make sure that this is all case sensitive. All right, we have our power settings here. So let's go ahead and add in our active power plan report. Right here, I'm actually going to go ahead and use this one like so, and I'm going to leave this one blank. I just want my power settings. So let's go ahead and apply that. And then lastly, I want to go ahead and use my printers script right here that is going to go ahead and retrieve all my printers and write that into a custom field. So if I look at my spreadsheet here, you can see I had 4 daily updates that I wanted to make. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in right now. I'm next going to do my hourly update. So let's go ahead. Actually, let's back out of here for a second. We'll save that. Let's go ahead and run that. Let's start getting these scripts running so that we can start to see what the data is going to look like inside of custom fields. So I'll go ahead and select all of my workstations here because I did just modify the workstation policy. I'm going to go ahead and run my daily custom fields update here. So we'll go ahead and kick that off like so. And while that runs, we're going to go ahead and go back into policies and set up our hourly updates. Again, because I've set up my scheduled automations to run on a recurring basis, I know that that information should always be current and up to date. So I'll just go ahead and add in my hourly block now. So we'll say custom fields hourly update like so. And we'll go ahead and set this to run on an interval every single hour. And then I'll go ahead and add in my automations. Again, use my custom fields speedrun there. And so looking at our hourly ones here, I need to run this device uptime percentage monitor. I need to run my local admins report, and I need to run my list local users report. So let's go ahead and add all those in. Device uptime percentage monitor here. Let's say I want to look at the uptime for the last 30 days. We'll go ahead and select a start date here. Say we'll look at February 7th. And then we'll go ahead and go right up until yesterday. Look for any unexpected shutdown times. And then finally, where are we going to write out all this information into? What custom fields do we need to populate? And so if I come in here, again, I can just copy and paste my names. This is the WYSIWYG field here, so I'll copy that, paste in there, and then copy my percentage and paste that in there. So 2 separate custom fields to hold this data. And again, we've got a little helpful information box right there. So we'll go ahead and apply that. Our next one is going to be our local admins report. Sure I got that right. There we go, local admins report. Where do I want to store this information? I do have this matching, so local admins right there. So I will go ahead and hit apply there. We're going to add in our local user script as well. There's our local users report. There's a WYSIWYG field here. You guys saw me create that WYSIWYG field earlier. We're going to go ahead and use the local users report, and that should be where all this information is stored. And in this case, I don't really care about including any disabled users. I really only want to know about active or enabled local users. And then finally, I want to go ahead and take advantage of my collect local admins script right here. And that is going to go ahead and write all my local admins, my local users, what groups they're a member of, and then write that into a WYSIWYG custom field. All right. Goodbye, Luke. Yes. Any questions that you have, we will relay over to Luke. So we'll go ahead and add those in here. Make sure that I did not miss anything else. Yes, I did see somebody spotted that this is actually incorrect here. That should be an uppercase A. As I created it, my sheet was wrong. So thank you, Philippe, for that. And sorry if I mispronounced your name. So this looks good. Oh, the last thing is a scheduled task report, of course. So let's go back in there. And for our hourly update, I also want to have accessible all the scheduled tasks that are running on the device. So here, do I want to include Microsoft tasks or disabled tasks? I do not. And then I want to utilize my scheduled task report like so. All right, and so that's running every single hour. We'll go ahead and save that as well. And then lastly, we're doing our weekly updates. Change this over to weekly. Let's, yeah, it's Wednesday. Let's do Wednesday at 5 o'clock. That seems perfectly fine. Go back into our spreadsheet here. We can see that a couple of these are running weekly. It looks like it's just check disk and SFC. And with that in mind, I'm going to actually change the day that I run that on, knowing that I'm using those two options. So let's go ahead and find the check disk status right here, and then the SFC status. Add both of those in there. And we'll go ahead and have this run, let's say Friday at 6. There we go. Question from Paul here. If the computer is off at a scheduled time, does it run at next boot? It does not. If your device is offline at Friday at 6 o'clock, the script is not going to execute. And that brings up a very good point here, which is that you may want these to always be updated. And in that case, you could certainly go ahead and have it run on an interval like this. Obviously, as long as the device is online for at least one of these hours, it's going to be updated. So yeah, you do need to take that into account. If devices are offline, they are going to not have this script execution occur on them. All right, so we have some of our updates in there, but we're not quite done yet. We have a custom fields user login update, and we'll actually have this run on user login. So every single time a user logs in, we'll go ahead and run an automation. And I believe in this case, this is going to be user session events right there. So we'll go ahead and add that in here. This is a really cool script. This is from Mikey O'Toole, who is a NinjaOne Power user and a community superhero in the Discord. So highly recommend checking out a lot of his things. His script is linked in my document that I posted here. Yeah, and a question from Camille here, is this just login or unlock workstation as well? It is going to be unlock workstation as well, I believe. Uh, Jeff asks, will this be recorded? Yes, this is being recorded, and you will get a link to the recording tomorrow. Thank you everybody for having my back. So we'll go ahead and add that in there. Let's see, did I miss any other ones? We have the user login. We also have this file tree size. This is another community one from Jan Schult. Again, his GitHub is linked right there. And this creates a very nice file tree size. Now, I think updating this on a daily basis makes a lot of sense, but I also would want to have it updated whenever a low disk space alert has triggered. And this way, when I go to the device to look at why it has low disk space in the event that a ticket gets generated, I have that information up to date, and I can go and say, okay, where are the large files located? I can go ahead and contact the end user to find out if they can be deleted, or at least have a better idea of where all the problems are. So I'm going to go back into my daily update here, and I'm going to have this run the tree size report right here. There we go. And then I also want to create a condition so that when my disk space gets low, like it is right here, let's say 15% low disk space, I then want to go ahead and run my tree size report so that it gets updated. And that looks good. So we'll go ahead and save that there. We'll need to enter some MFA code in order to ensure uh, that I am who I say I am. I guess I haven't entered one in about 2 hours or so. Yep, Alex is bringing up a good point here. Some of these scripts I imported and did not modify to include script variables, so you will have to go into the actual script itself in order to modify the custom field name that you want to output to. I will do a better job of making that clear on the final documentation that's going to be emailed out with the recording. So that is something I don't think is currently on this spreadsheet right now, but I will make some notes here about needing to manually modify the custom field inside of the script in order for that to successfully work. And in fact, you're probably going to see me get got by that on this very webinar here. So I think we're good there. Let's go back to our devices and take a quick look, see if we're getting any output here. And here we can see that we are getting our PowerShell version right there. We're seeing that we have PowerShell version 5.1 installed on all of these devices. So that's a good start, but it looks like we're still missing some data. Going back to our custom field speedrun document, you'll see that we have a couple fields that actually require the data to be set manually, or at least setting the data manually is uh, an option. In my preference, it would be to actually import the data via the API. So if you have a spreadsheet that has all of your data, you can very easily import at scale a lot of data into Ninja very quickly. And so let's take a look at what this might look like. You can see here that I have a CSV and I have a column with the device ID right here. This is a unique identifier within NinjaOne that you need for the API to know which device it needs to talk to. I have the name of the device right here. This is for error handling purposes so that I easily know what device may have failed part of the import. And then I have the actual custom fields that I want to include. I am using headers up here. This is required. You do need to have the custom field name as a column header. So in this case, asset tag, assigned user, and asset status. I am only including 3 custom fields right here, but the script that I am using is dynamic, so it should support importing as many of the custom fields as you include here. Now, how do we get to this point? I exported from this very menu right here, the devices menu. I limited down to my Windows devices like so. I went ahead and I used the export option to export with all device details. And that gives me this CSV right here with a whole bunch of extra information. Now I need the ID. There's my ID right there. But I really don't care about any of this other stuff. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete those columns there. And I'm going to delete those columns there. And so I'm left with just 2 columns, ID and system name. In my case, I actually changed this to name. And so that's how my script is set up. The columns need to be named exactly like these 2 right here. So after that, I just add in the custom fields up at the very top, the top header. So in this case, I can say asset tag, assigned user, like so. And then I just populate all of my data in here that I have, and it would allow me to go ahead and easily import it. So that's how you would get to this point here. I would recommend exporting from the devices menu and then using a pivot table probably, or even just PowerShell to take your other data source and kind of correlate all that information to easily get that in there. So I will close out there. Do not want to save that. Let me open up my script here. This is not posted currently, but this will be on my GitHub. Again, there is going to be a packet sent out with the recording. This is being recorded. So you will receive a packet or a link to basically a primer that has all of our scripts, the Excel spreadsheet I keep showing, basically every resource that I'm talking about today. that is going to be included with the recording. So here have this pointed to my CSV right here. It's going to say basically for any column inside of this CSV that is not named ID or a name, it's going to go ahead and assume that the header is a custom field name, and then the data in the custom field needs to be placed inside of the custom field, needs to be imported. There is an option up here where if you want to clear out values that are already inside of a custom field, you can go ahead and have it produce a null output into the custom field so it appears as though there's no data inside of it. In my case here, I'm going to change this back to false so that I'm not overwriting any empty values. So in this case, let's go ahead and start populating stuff. And so you can see here, it's going to be patching each device's custom fields with the data that is present inside of the spreadsheet here. This should not take very long because this is not a very high number of devices. But of course, if you had many thousands of devices that you were importing into, or that you were importing custom field data into, this could start to take quite a bit of time. So I'd recommend maybe going and getting a cup of coffee if you have tens of thousands of devices and you're working with this. And so there we're done. Now we have everything imported. Let's go back into our devices search grid here and refresh. And there we go. Asset status, asset tag, assigned user. These are all populated. Note here that for an empty value, and this was left empty intentionally, you can see that it just leaves nothing inside of there. And then, of course, we can see some slightly different values in here, not in use versus deployed, kind of indicating that this is not a currently deployed device, and that's why it doesn't have an assigned user. All right, let's look at our activity feed here. You can see that these custom field values have been updated. This is something to be aware of, is that when you update custom fields, you are going to see logs in the activities. I know for many people, this can sometimes spiral out of control, can start to be a little bit overwhelming seeing all of these logs in the activities, especially when you have constant script executions that are running maybe every hour or every single day. One little trick that you can do here to prevent all of these script executions from appearing within the activities feed. And just for reference here, if I'm using my scheduled automations like so, these are all going to appear. Each individual script execution is going to appear inside of the um, activities feed. If you don't want that to happen, let's say you need to update a custom field on a consistent basis like every hour, and you don't want to see these appear in the activities feed every single hour, you can actually go ahead and convert these over into either a script result condition, a standard one, or a compound condition that aggregates them all into one. So you can actually go ahead and have a script execution run here. Let's say I want to do my local admins report. I can go ahead and say, let's do that. I never really want to alert on this, so I'll just leave all of this empty here. And so I'll say right there, we're good to go. And so that is actually going to run every single 30 minutes, or in this case, every hour. And it's going to update the custom field. However, because it's a script result condition, it is not going to appear within the activities feed unless it actually triggers. And we've deliberately set it to not trigger. So if you do have quite a few custom fields being updated and the activities are just a huge mess and you can't see anything in there, this is a nice little workaround here to sort of silently run a script and have it populate a custom field. If you run, Rolando has a question, does device performance have a negative impact when a bunch of scripts run at the same time? It depends on the script and how intensive it is. I will say that anything you run here, these are running sequentially. So if I had 10 script result conditions here, they're not kicking off at the same time. They are going to run one after the other. So it is not going to be, just a whole big waterfall all at once. But yes, if you do have these scripts doing something quite intensive, for example, let's say a really complicated API interaction, or something really intensive on the device, like the system performance check, for example, yes, you could potentially see negative impact there. But again, that's why we run them sequentially. Travis asks, is there a set delay between scripts or can we set that? There is not a set delay within scripts or between scripts, I should say. We do try to have these run as fast as is feasible. I feel like that's kind of a Ninja trademark, as we want to be able to um, uh, operate as quickly as possible and as near real time as possible. You can add in a script, a start sleep command essentially, and you can actually see this. I'm changing browsers here. This is a different environment. But if you go into the template library, there is a sleep option where you can actually, or maybe it's a wait. Yeah, wait a random number of minutes, but you can essentially build a delay in that if you'd like to. All right, so let's go ahead and look at an actual device real quick. And this is a Windows workstation right here. Let's go to our custom fields and see what has populated. And it looks like we're missing some stuff here. We're seeing some data is not in place. We do have our power settings right here, which is really nice. We've got our PowerShell version. We've got our printers, but we're not seeing anything for the scheduled tasks. We're not seeing, actually, yes, we are seeing the system performance check right here. So this is really nice. You can see how valuable this is to kind of have all this information at your fingertips. And I just love the look of this. I love the ability of these WYSIWYG fields to have this type of custom formatting. All right, so it looks like we're missing some things here. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of testing. So for starters, we are missing our device uptime percentage over the last 30 days and our device uptime percentage monitor. So let's go ahead and actually run that script and see what output we get, see what's wrong. And again, I will reference my fields here. So there's my device uptime over the last 30 days. Let's go ahead and run that. You can see that running over there on the right-hand side. Tony asks, is there a custom field we can create to gather warranty information of devices? Looking for a way to pull a report for lifecycle management. Tony, that is actually something you can do within Ninja natively. So if we jump into a slightly different environment here, you can see that we do track warranty information natively. So if you go into the app section here, you'll see NinjaOne warranty tracking. This supports Dell, Lenovo, Toshiba, HP, and Microsoft. So those device types are going to be something we can pull the warranty information on programmatically. And so if we go into our favorites here and look at our warranty report, you can see this information, warranty start date, warranty end date. I think fulfillment date is also an option here. And so with this, I would then be able to go into my reporting section, create a data table report, and then I could have that to be scheduled to be sent out on a recurring basis using NinjaOne reporting. And that'll be again, in a CSV format. If you are interested in trying to get something that looks a little bit better, I have done something with the API to retrieve this information and then create sort of a nice looking report that looks more like this. However, you do need to be logged into NinjaOne to view this, or I guess you could download it. But it is not something that can be scheduled to be sent out in the same way that the data table CSV can be. Well, looks like we're having some problems with this script here. So let's see if we actually got any information populated into our custom field. And Tony, hopefully that answered your question. This should be in the 8.0 release. I see some people saying that warranty tracking is not something that they can utilize right now. I think that is something that your account manager should be able to enable for you. If they cannot, then it will be in the 8.0 release. So yes, please reach out to your account manager, but otherwise this should be globally available for everyone with 8.0. And you would just need to go into the administration section, the app section, and then enable warranty tracking like so. So if you're in Canada, if you're in the Oceanic instance, you are on 8.0 today. You should be able to utilize this. Starting next week, I believe the EU should receive this, maybe US too as well. And then at the end of the month, the main US instance, app.ninjarmm.com, that will receive the 8.0 release. And then warranty tracking will officially be GA for everybody. Uh, See, saw some interest here on the warranty tracking report that looked nice. That is right here on my GitHub, and I will drop that into the chat. There you go. All right, let's go back into our device here and let's try to figure out what's going on here with our script and why it's not working, or some of our scripts and why it's not working. You can see that some of these are starting to populate, but it looks like maybe my VMs are giving me some problems here with PowerShell not working right. Let's talk about another thing that I neglected to mention earlier, which is the blocking Windows 11 script. So let's go into our automation section here. You'll note that in my spreadsheet, I call out and highlight right here that this is a slightly modified version of the template library script. The slight modification is a single line here. So if we go and look for our block Windows 11 script, right here. This is stock. This came directly from the template library. I've made no changes to this whatsoever. What change I do want to make here is I want to go ahead and add in a checkbox here. I want to have the script write into a custom field checkbox indicating whether or not this script was executed on the device. And so what I'm going to do to accomplish that is right here where the registry keys are actually set. I'm going to add in a new line. I'm going to type in set, and you'll see that this auto completes to set value like this. And you'll see here that I have the option to put in a field name and a field value. So in this case, my field value should also auto-populate. This is going to be the Windows 11 blocked via registry option. And then the field value that I want to put in here is just going to be a 1. A 1 indicating that, yes, I want to go ahead and check the box here. I want to block Windows 11 on this device. If I wanted to uncheck the box, I would set that to a 0. So let's go ahead and say that right there. Let's go to our devices menu. Let's locate all of our Windows workstations that are running Windows 10. No point in running this on Windows 11. We'll go ahead and select all there. And then run our block Windows 10 to Windows 11 script. Keep in mind here, I'm setting this to 22H2, which is the last version of Windows 10. Then we'll execute that. Again, I can toggle my activities feed over here to see this taking effect right there. Looks like it has. So let's go ahead and refresh. And yes, we can see those custom field values starting to populate. We also need to get our local admins one filled. So let's go ahead and try to run that again. Right there. Let's confirm that I did create this with the correct name. I keep talking about case sensitivity and how important it is. It's absolutely possible that I have screwed it up. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so yeah, we've got local admins there. And that matches what we have there. So let's go ahead and run this and see what kind of input we get back. It could be because these are relatively new VMs that they have not been patched properly, and it could be some PowerShell issues here. So this could be a skill issue on my part in setting this up. Yeah, James, no, that's super useful there to have that at scale. And keep in mind that the activities that are shown here are only going to be for devices that you have selected. So I'm only seeing Windows 10 workstations right now show these activities rather than seeing all activities for every single device. Let's give another refresh there. Hey, Windows 11, that finished populating. That's good news. And then here we can start to see our local administrators start to get populated over here as well. So unclear why that failed the first time. Again, I probably copy and pasted something incorrectly, used the wrong case. Uh, Absolutely something that I have done in the past and will probably continue to do. Let's see. We have a question here from Paul. Can custom fields be limited to a device type? For example, PowerShell version only available for Windows machines and not Macs. You can absolutely do that. You would just want to create the custom field as a role-based custom field in lieu of creating it as a global custom field. So you would go ahead and create a field here, and we'll actually walk through the process. We'll use my example from earlier. Laptop, battery, health, and you'll see here that when I type in the label, it does automatically put the name into camel case here. I do not want the technician to be able to edit this. I just want them to read only. We can read and write from automation, and we can read from the API. Again, no point in having the API be able to overwrite information where the source of truth should be from the device. So now I've created a role-based custom field. This is an incredibly important step, and it's a step I forget all the time, assigning it to the device. So we actually need to go into roles here. We need to go down. We need to find our specific device type. For example, if I wanted to have it apply to all workstations, I would just say for both Windows desktops and laptops, let's go ahead and add that field. However, my example is just for laptops, so we're going to expand that chevron. We're going to go down to the Windows laptop line item, and then we're going to go ahead and add in that field right there. And so now this is going to be something that's accessible or viewable, present, I guess is probably the best way to say it, only on Windows laptop device roles within Ninja. All right. Let's look at some more questions here. We've got about 7 minutes left. Tony has a question. Hasn't used the secure field yet. Is MFA required on each access or just at the beginning of the session? Each access is required. And I will also say that if you look at a secure custom field, which if I get my tabs right, you'll see that. Let's go to a device real quick. Right here, you can see the client ID and the client secret right there. We would have to click show password right there, which I'm not going to do. And you also have the option there to copy. These, I believe, if you click the show password, it reveals for 20 seconds and then it goes back to being hidden. And so you will need to enter MFA for each individual time you want to reveal the secure field. It is not going to pay attention to the kind of global administrative setting that we see under technician settings here, the global administrative idle time. That's not going to apply to secure fields. Anytime you reveal it, anytime you copy it, you have to enter MFA. Question from Bill. Do you have to import scripts from the template library to use them? If so, what happens when the template changes? You do need to re-import it. Well, first of all, you do need to import scripts from the template library to use them, and then you do need to re-import them once there have been updates. I will say that with, I believe, the 7.0 release, we now have, actually, it was probably 6.0. We now have the last updated column, so it's very easy to tell when something has been updated. And then in the 8.0 release, if we go back into an 8.0 division, you will see that we now have some additional columns here created on last updated, created by, last updated by. This is in the 8.0 release, so that's a nice enhancement there. And we absolutely understand that there's a gap here, that we need to make this much more of a cleaner experience so that when there are updates to the template library, that you can very easily update your existing scripts that are in production. So we are working on that. I just don't have any time frame right now on when that's actually going to become a reality. So Matt says custom fields are great, but I find it hard to keep them organized, which leads to making it harder to read and when to look for them. Are there good ways to organize the custom field data to make it nice on the eyes? Today, unfortunately not. However, I did tease this a little bit earlier. The 9.0 release should introduce custom field tabs. And so that means that you'll be able to create groupings of custom fields, and that when you go to a device, like for example, this will actually be a drop-down, and this will show you your various custom field tabs. And when you click on that, it'll only show you the tabs that belong to that tab group. So Matt, not today, but in the 9.0 release, which again should be out, fingers crossed, by the end of June, you will have that better organization. The You cannot see a custom field on the overview screen you're on right now. Yeah, custom fields are going to be something that you do have to click into in order to see that information. Oh, and here we can see our uptime statistics. Looks like this one actually populated here. And so you can see all our various boot options here. And then over the last 30 days, what the projected uptime percentage monitoring has been. This device, this VM, has actually not been provisioned for a full 30 days, which is why it's relatively low. Giovanni asks, is it possible to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 via Ninja? Yes, we now have a script out for that in the template library. Again, if you look at our most recent updates right here, you'll see one of them is the update Windows 10 to Windows 11 script. I'm going to be honest with you, Giovanni. I don't know if that is also going to potentially restart the user's computer without warning. I have not tested it yet. I would certainly recommend trying that with a test VM perhaps before actually deploying to production. So I can't guarantee that it's going to not have an unexpected reboot, just to be transparent. One thing I would recommend here for good communication is any of our display pop-ups or display toasts. This is a great way to have one-way communication with your end users, which is some of the best kind of communication. Um, And Camille asks, I apologize if I butchered your name. Will it check if the PC can be updated to Windows 11? That is a separate script. Um, Check Windows 11 upgrade compatibility. I assume that if it's not able to be upgraded to Windows 11, you're going to receive a failure message. But again, I haven't actually tested it. We have 30 seconds left. Let's see who our winner is. Can I get drum emojis in the chat, please? All right, our winner is Stephen Hannon. Stephen Hannon, congratulations. You are our winner. You should hear from somebody sometime next week reaching out about your prize. With that, thank you everyone for attending today. I know we had a couple hiccups, but that's the way the speed runs go. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, jeff.hunter@ninjaone.com. And I know we also have a long list of questions in the Q&A, and we're going to try to circle back on those as well. So thank you. Really appreciate everyone's patience today. Take care and have a good rest of your day.